I first started self-harming when I was about 14, 15. From then it escalated up till I was self-harming pretty much every day. And there'd be cutting, burning, scratching, pulling my hair out, overdosed at times, punching myself, punching walls. Any action that had hurt myself to release the feelings that I felt inside.
People self-harm when they're trying to cope with emotional difficulties. Now that might be an experience that's led to them feeling stressed or distressed or overwhelmed in some way. Amongst young people, the common factors that lead to them self-harming might be relationship difficulties, low self-esteem, bullying or body image, things like that.
It could just be at school and somebody might say something, or I didn't quite do a piece of work right, and I'd just feel it'd be like a ball of tension inside my stomach that I just needed to release, and self-harming was the way that I found to release it.
Self-harm can be a cry for help. It can be the only way somebody knows how to express themselves. It can be an indicator that they feel completely out of control. But most importantly, if a young person is self-harming, they don't feel able to articulate what their feelings are. If you find out that your teenager is self-harming, or if you have a really strong suspicion that that's what's happening, don't panic. Try and talk it through with your teenager directly, but if you don't feel comfortable or safe, you're worried about doing that, you don't know how to manage that conversation, do turn to your GP. They are the first point of contact to help you make sense of what might be happening.
Don't put all the blame on yourself. There could be a lot of things that are going on in a child's life that's causing them to self-harm, so don't blame yourself.
It could be really positive if you could help your child to take responsibility for selecting what service they think is appropriate and what will help them.
Relate to them in terms of their emotions and not just the self-harm. So to ask questions like, how are you feeling, rather than have you been self-harming, that's really, really important. And also to be open to the fact that there might be things going off at home that have contributed to the distress, and as a parent to be able to relate to that without taking the blame for it and making the problem worse.
Ask questions around the self-harm, but not directly, because that would make somebody just go, whoa, I want to be swallowed up in a great big hole.
The important thing to remember is keep the boundaries, because both emotionally and psychologically that will be really stabilising and beneficial for your teenager.
They didn't pester me or question me, they just let me be and just made their presence known so that their support was there if I needed it, which was nice, because they didn't interrogate me or make me feel that what I was doing was wrong. They just let me be.
I would always encourage a parent to get support for themselves. Dealing with self-harm in anybody, whether you're well trained or not, is a distressing experience. So if a parent's well supported, then they're going to be able to support their young person much more efficiently.
School first found out I was self-harming when I was about 17, and they were quite supportive. They helped me a lot. They set me up with a connections worker, went to connections service. I went to the doctors and was diagnosed with depression, and they then sent me to see a young person's counsellor, so I had counselling for a while. I stopped self-harming about 2 years ago, when I was about 21. I'm not going to say that I'm never going to self-harm again, because I don't think that would be realistic. The majority of days I battle with the feelings of self-harm if something goes wrong, and it's always at the back of my mind. But now I'm able to deal with those feelings and to leave them at the back of my mind and try, push them out and focus on something else.
Self-harm isn't something to be afraid of. If we take that out of the equation and we start talking about distress and start relating to young people in terms of how they're feeling, then there's nothing to be frightened of. Somebody that's self-harming isn't trying to commit suicide, they're trying to stay alive, and as long as they're doing that, there's lots we can do to help them.
Things will get better. There's help and support out there. It may take months, it may take years, it could take many years, but things will get better and there will be a positive outcome in the end.